for like moments wise, I've got two. So obviously I've got Istanbul 2005,
and then the slip. Yeah.
Welcome back to Lose to Win, the podcast with me, Jack, Josh, and a special guest this week, our first outside of the community, somebody that the community know relatively well if you play with us outside on a Thursday or Sunday nights. It's my brother Jordan. How are you both doing?
Very good. Thank you. Very good. Yeah.
Good, thank you, mate.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Jord. What we're going to do is we're going to use you and abuse you while we've got you, and dive into what you do for the community. A lot of people won't know that you're involved with AFC Bournemouth community and the club itself. And there's some special things that I think personally you do that you should be very proud of within the community, and it's definitely worth sharing. And to be honest, I'm using this as a little ploy to try and get you to finally join Man v Fat and see if we can get your shifts changed. Because all Purples need to win, to push us over the line this season, is Jordan Hayter to join the league. That will be the icing on the cake.
You've got a really good team already. You don't need to be overpowered.
We need a goal scorer. I can't hit a fucking cow's ass with a banjo at the moment.
So I don't score goals, mate. I just sit at the back.
Yeah, you can do both. Easy. So if we jump into the roundup first, Josh, and then we'll jump back to Jordan and kind of ask some questions and see how it goes from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure. Just as a quick thing, have you guys seen any Christmas ads hitting the TV screens and music already? Because
loads.
It's coming. Yeah, it's coming already. Festive promotions for Stoon, the supermarket aisles already. Yeah. And plans for work parties are coming. So I've seen that quite a lot. Every year, Christmas seems to start a little bit earlier, we find, and that's kind of no different at Man v Fat Bournemouth, because we have succumbed to that trend this week. After 4 stunning weeks of weight loss, we've stalled and recorded a collective gain for the first time this season, unfortunately. I think we did have quite a few absentees, obviously, because of various parties, I assume, even as early as this time. So, you know, we're going into a season. We know it's going to be difficult for everyone involved in terms of the weight loss side and attendance in general. So we've got one so far, but it doesn't mean we can't bounce back. There were some individual success stories, however, but overall we were more like a kind of miserable Monday morning than a vibrant Friday night, as Steve puts it in his roundup. Only 3 teams, Oranges, Greens and Purples, recorded losses as a team. Purples, with only 4 players weighing in, by the way, saw all 4 lose weight. Congratulations.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. While Greens achieved a clean sweep with 8 out of 8. I'm not really 100% certain, but that could have been 2 weeks in a row, actually, that they've done that. So that's phenomenal.
That's insane. That's so good.
Yeah. Oranges, with 6 out of 7 lost, were the week's biggest losers with a collective 4.9 kilos. So that tells you we've got some more weight to shift. But the results in general, so we had some quite big score differences this week. The Blues won 16-3 against the Whites. Your Purples won 15-11 against the Reds.
With 2 ringers.
With 2 ringers as well. So that was really, really well done. The Greens, however, the biggest difference, they won 25-3 for a massive score difference. And then the Oranges, who absolutely blew us away on off the pitch as us Blacks, they won 24-9 overall. So some big scores there, and it's shaking up the table. I have to admit, I haven't got the table on hand to read it out.
Greens and Purples are joint top. That's all I know.
Okay, well, there you go. So we need to care about for now. Last man standing was a big factor on those scores. We dropped down to 27 players remaining, meaning each of the 27 scored a goal for their team. Whites and Yellows each have a solitary representative in last man standing. I think that's Adrian and Dimmy, respectively. And the Reds have 2 people left, the Blues 3. Purples, Blacks and Oranges have 4 apiece. So it's really pretty good going. But the Greens, man, they have 8 people still in last man standing.
Smashing it.
So, yeah, a colossal score this week as a result. So that's amazing.
When's the next round of goals chuck in at 20 when it drops?
Well, that's the same. So we're going to say next last man standing goals will be given when we drop to 20 or below.
Wow.
So that could be as early as this week. Let's hope not, but it could be as early as this week.
Yeah. The reference for Jordan and other people that aren't involved with the Man v Fat that might listen, the reference to ringers, basically what it means, Jordan, if we take on 2 ringers, we lose 4 goals. So we start as a -4 goal difference because unfortunately we've got 9 in our team, but only 4 of us were available this week for one reason or another. So we took 2 ringers, which is often pretty difficult to overcome, isn't it, Josh? You almost start straight away on a -4 goal. So we knew we had to turn it around on the pitch as well as on the scales, and we did. In monsoon-like weather, we managed to score 4 goals, win 4-0 on the pitch, so it really made a difference.
I was still shivering. In bed, like when I got back. I was just like lying there. It's like after midnight. It's like 2.5 hours later, and I'm still shivering.
Yeah,
Like
it was
just to my
awful.
core, like absolutely.
I felt for you because you weren't even. Sorry, you did play, didn't you? But there's times that you stand on the sideline and you're literally just shivering away, and yeah, it is. It's not nice, is it? Not nice at all.
Well, I had a ringed for you, didn't I? I got absolutely drenched and shivering, and then I stood on the sideline for half an hour for the next game, and then had our game. We were the last one. So
There's a few injuries, wasn't there? Didn't Charlie do his shoulder?
Yes, Charlie had a tussle with John on the byline, and it just nothing untoward, just coming together, and he fell pretty hard on his shoulder. He dislocated it. So he's going to be out for a few weeks. I just had I just rolled my ankle, but I just couldn't continue off for the last part of the second half.
Fair enough.
So we were kind of, and then we had to take a ringer penalty because Charlie came off like seconds after I did because he couldn't continue.
So you just had to hook somebody from the sideline.
Yeah, just Liam. Well, Charlie just hooked someone from the sideline. I was still, I was still trying to test my ankle. And the Oranges kind of just played us off the park as well in general. So we did okay for that because of our 4 last man standing and goals, and we lost some weight, etc. So 9 on our side isn't, with a ringer penalty, it's not too bad. It's just that Oranges were just amazing. So
how's it going personally for you, mate, this season so far?
It's okay. I've been losing I'm still in last man standing. I'm still one of the 4 in last man standing, so
nice.
That tells you it's been good so far. Not like huge weight losses, just small little tiny things I've chipped away. I guess it's quite close to break even for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm still there. And I'm still going in the right direction, still trying to do the right things mainly. Different from last season, definitely.
I'm on a bizarre streak of 4 weeks in a row I've lost exactly the same amount.
Really?
Yeah, amazing. And I genuinely thought like it couldn't happen again each time. After the second
time, it's not 0.1, is it though?
It's 0.4, so it's not it's not huge, but it's
no, but it's good. It's really good, yeah.
And I think for the first time in a long time, I went to watch a comedy show last night with my wife Lisa, and I put on a like shirt jacket thing that I've had for a long time that I was used to wear open. It's like zips up. And I always used to wear open because it didn't close. And last night it was absolutely Baltic walking back to the car. And I thought, I'll just give it a go. And it zipped up. I was like, oh, fuck me. That's the first thing I've actually noticed for a long time, actually now fitting that didn't used to. So little things like that. Lisa was obviously like, little wins. I'm kind of like, yeah, it's good. But it's frustrating that it stagnates. But the consistency for me is what's important. And I'm just desperate to stay in this last man standing and lead by example for the Purples.
Well, that's the same with me. I'm really desperate to stay last man standing. I actually said to Steve at the start of the season, I said, I'm going to be one of the last couple of people in last man standing this year. I can just absolutely guarantee it. So we're still going, 4 or 5 weeks in. So that's good.
It's noticeable though, for both of you two, to be fair, for what I've been doing on a Thursday night when I play. Like, to be fair, I don't see Jack move much at all since I've been playing football with him. Yeah. And on a Thursday night now, he can actually dribble. He never used to dribble with the ball. He always used to get it and just boot it. I'd say boot more than ping.
You're literally my biggest critic. Also, that is, for anybody listening, that is genuinely the nicest thing Jordan's ever said to me. So I'm glad it's been recorded.
And it's also And even with Josh as well, to be fair, mate, from when I first came and you first started, I think I did maybe a couple before you did start. But I've seen you're lighter on your feet and you're quicker, you're more agile.
Yeah. I do 100%. Notice it, to be fair. Yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you.
When I first started, it was like
interesting. I've noticed it. I've noticed it with like aches and pains, like getting out of bed and stuff. My knee's not great anyway, but I'd always struggle with my knee. And each morning, Lisa would be like, "You didn't even play football last night, and you're hobbling." I'm like, "It's just how I wake up, I think." But I've noticed gradually over the last couple of weeks that's moving away, and I'm sure healthy food inside you helps you. Obviously, the right sort of levels of protein and whatever else you're eating is helping you recover as well, isn't it? It's helping you to repair muscle and whatever else you're using at the time. But yeah, I've had a nice couple of comments. I think Dave mentioned he's like you're starting to sprint more and get involved more with that, and I'm really pushing myself. I've thoroughly enjoyed our interclub on Sunday as well.
That was great, yeah.
It was a real tight affair and really even teams. I'm lucky that I've got Adam, Dave and Ryan on kind of like the 11s management team with me to kind of balance it out. So we kind of are never going to share the rankings, but we rank each player and then we give them what we think their position is or generally where they play and try and marry people off to keep it as even as possible. And then we had kind of anomalies like Louis playing that's impossible to kind of rank anybody against unless it's Adam, who was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So George, you've played with Louis, haven't you? The lad that I used to play with for Forest United, the guy covered in tattoos.
Yeah.
Adam just granted Louis scored a couple of great goals, but Adam just stood up to him the entire game, and Neil as well. Actually, the pair of them managed him so well through that game, and just outstanding performance from both of those. But Adam picked up man of the match for everybody. But really impressive stuff, and it's good. The community side of it, and you mentioned as well, and other people listening, Christmas parties happening. We've obviously doing a little Christmas knees up in Bournemouth on the 2nd of December. Everybody is welcome. George, you're obviously welcome as well. You'll know pretty much everybody there anyway. We're going into, is it the George Taps I've sorted out? I get so confused with everything. Yeah, George Taps in town. So I've just rented a little part of that area and we'll have a few beers and see where the night goes. But it's all good. So make sure you come along, guys, if you're listening.
We've got Dad's birthday meal the next day, Jack.
Oh, yeah, I know about that too, mate. Don't worry. Lisa's driving, don't worry.
Okay.
I should just continue with the roundup if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, go on. Sorry.
So, family affairs. Sorry, Josh.
There were some hat-tricks, a relative handful. I actually don't know the number, unfortunately. But compared to the glut of last week, but there were a multitude of milestones this week in comparison. So relative newcomers, John and Ian, again from the Purples, Ian, by the way, both reached 5%, capping off an excellent start to their Man v Fat careers. I don't actually know pronounce his last name, but I think it's George O'Callaghan, mate. I'm gonna get that wrong. Breaks the 10% barrier, while his Blues teammate Ollie joins the elite 20% club. In fact, he was telling me about that 2 weeks ago. He was quite close and he thought he was going to get there. So he's lost 28.5 kilos, nearly 3/5 of a Kylie since joining the club. So very well done to you all. Fantastic achievement and hopefully an inspiration to the rest of us in general. We just quickly to recap it off, we do have another all new team of the week led by Connor from the Super Blacks, who lost a whopping 2 kilos. And featuring all 4 milestone men in the team of the week this week. So Connor was at the top with 2 kilos. Then we had John with 1.8, Michael Burt with 1.6, George, as mentioned, with 1.5, and Ollie with 1.4. And then we have Neil at 1.2 kilos this week, and Ian with 1.2. Mark off the team of the week. And generally, that's it for the roundup. This week.
One person is shouting in particular on there. Obviously, John's come in and smashed it. He's new to the team and taken to it like a duck to water and an all-round top guy. But one person in particular, Connor, who, like you mentioned before to me, it's his first experience of ever playing football. And on Sunday, he stepped up and decided to throw himself in the deep end and play 11-a-sides for the first time. And you and I were stood on the sideline for a good 5-10 minutes just chatting away, and he was one player that just stuck out, all for the right reasons. So he what an experience for him, and how proud he should be of himself to throw himself in the deep end and be able to cope with that. And it's just I can't begin to imagine to pick up a new sport and throw myself in the deep end at kind of a level of 11-a-side football, and it's just so good and so impressive. So fair play, mate. And the weight loss has been so good as well.
Oh yeah, I mean it's been monumental change, because he started when I was on the Yellows, so I was captain Yellows a season or two ago, and as you say, hadn't really played football and wasn't really used to it, but threw himself in straight at it, and really every single week, not only has he been losing mega weight since the start, he's also just been chipping away and getting better and better and better, and he doesn't shy away. He doesn't from any of it, and I just love that. I absolutely love having him on the team. He's brilliant. So congratulations again, Connor. And I know you haven't been in a few of the team of the weeks, but I know you've lost some whopping, like huge numbers sometimes and just missed out. So fantastic, mate. Really fantastic.
Fair play to him. Yeah. Right, should we dive into Jordan's icebreaker so everybody can learn a bit more about him?
Indeed.
So, George, we'll start with who do you support?
I think a few of them know. Rather wear my white football boots on a Thursday with my never walk alone on the tongue. I am a Liverpool fan.
There we go. And can you tell us why you're a Liverpool fan, or your best memory as a Liverpool fan?
I can't really remember when I first started supporting Liverpool, to be fair.
I might be able to have an input on this.
So he's going to say that at 2 years old, there's a photo of me with a United shirt on.
No, I wasn't actually going to mention that, but as you mentioned,
well, thanks for that.
I will share that on the socials. I do have it in the bank.
At 2 years old, it's obviously been forced upon me against my will.
It was Luke, by the way, who's on his 5th team or whatever it is now.
So-called Jack calling out people supporting 2 clubs. The memory was my grandma gave me a signed Michael Owen photo frame.
Yeah.
And it was addressed to my grandma, but then she gave it to me, and then I think from then I think I kind of just had a love for Liverpool. But yeah, so
the most boring man in football.
who are actually not that fond of anymore because he went to United. I think it was on your pod a couple of weeks ago of the last Englishman to win the Ballon d'Or was Owen, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And he actually, the reason why he won that is because he had an unreal season at Liverpool. And then he got his move to Madrid and then played a couple of months before the Ballon d'Or is obviously announced, a couple of months into the season, isn't it? About 12, 13 games in.
Yeah.
And then he won it, and he won it as a Madrid player, but all of the stuff that he got recognised for was for Liverpool.
It's interesting. Yeah. How did he do at Madrid? I can't really remember.
He did quite well, to be fair. He scored a lot of goals, but then he started getting those knee injuries.
Yeah.
And then ever since that, I think the first one, as soon as you do your knee, I mean, Jack and Luke both go on about how bad their knees are. And it really frustrates me because I'm the only one out of the 3 of us that's actually dislocated their knees. Both of them have done. And I don't complain about my knees once. And these two just whinge all the time about their knees.
I feel you, George. I have actually dislocated my knee a couple of times.
Yeah, so if Jack ever moans about it, if Jack ever moans, mate, just tell him.
Right, and that's all we've got time for today. Thanks for listening to Lose to Win the podcast.
Okay, I was going to ask you then. So we were going to say about your favourite player then, or memory, because you mentioned Michael Owen. Was he your favourite player, past or present?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I imagine so.
He was until he went to United.
Yeah.
No, I think it's quite obvious that I'm 29, so kind of my era and players of watching it is Steven Gerrard. With no real questions around it, really. And then for like moments wise, I've got two. So obviously I've got Istanbul 2005.
Yeah. And then the
and
slip, yeah.
And the funny thing is, when we were in the Champions League 2005 one, the game obviously happened, and I just thought that I was not in Bournemouth when we won. So I ran out of my front of the house at mum and dad's, and like was cheering, and I was expecting other people to be cheering, and it was there was no one, because obviously it was late at night. There was no one on the streets or anything, and I'm just like celebrating, and mum's just like, "Get inside! What are you doing?" I was like, "We just won the Champions League," and I'm celebrating. She's like, "We're not in Liverpool, we're in Bournemouth. No one cares." I was just there like, "Oh, okay." Also, earlier on in that night, I was in tears to mum at half time.
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm going to bed. I'm not watching anymore. This is horrendous. I'm going to bed." And she's like, "No, I'll just watch the next 10 minutes and see what happens." So mum, bless her, made me stay up and watch it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then my other one is, I went to Liverpool versus Chelsea in the Champions League in 2009. I got dragged out of school by my dad at lunchtime on a Wednesday. And number one, for my dad to be home midweek is an odd. And then even odder for seeing him picking me up from school and taking me out. I was like, "Oh, God, something's happened here." I got in the car and he's like, "Oh, how do you fancy going to watch Liverpool-Chelsea tonight?" I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Oh, I've got 2 tickets, or I've got a ticket for you to go up to watch Liverpool." I was like, "All right." I thought he was just taking the piss and having me on. And he had some business partner at the time that had 2 tickets, and someone pulled out, so he offered it to Dad. And then Dad obviously knew I was a massive Liverpool fan, so he drove me all the way up to Anfield on a Wednesday night, gave me his ticket. I watched that. He listened to it in the radio in a car park, picked me back, and then drove me back to Bournemouth for school the next day. So yeah, that's why I'm golden boy for Jack. And Luke.
I was about to say that's one of the purest golden boy stories you'll ever hear. There's a few, but that is up there. But yeah, fair play to Dad for doing that, to drive all the way up there, literally sit in the car and listen to it on the radio and then drive him home. But an opportunity, his dad clearly saw it as an opportunity that he couldn't let Jordan miss, and it was
No, we lost 3-1 on the night, and Ivanovic scored 2 headers. Drogba scored.
Yeah, I was going to say
Torres scored early doors to go 1-0 up, and then that noise was just something else. Like I would never forget it in my lifetime, of the noise on a European night under lights, and people go on about it all the time, and nice quiet atmosphere. And I've been there when it's quiet. I've been to West Ham, Liverpool. I've seen Bournemouth at Liverpool, and it is quiet, and they only turn up for big games. But when they turn up, they do turn up and sing and shout.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing. Anyway, so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. So obviously Jack mentioned your ties to AFC Bournemouth, the club, beforehand. And just for the listeners, I know a little bit, but could you just let us know what your role is at AFC Bournemouth then?
Yes. So I am lead deliverer on the disability programme at AFC Bournemouth Community Sports Trust. So for details, I run 7 pan disability teams. So that is from people with anxiety, learning difficulties, behavioural difficulties, all go in under a pan disability league. So I've got 7 teams that I run as such, from under 12s all the way up to adults. And then I've got 2 power chair teams. So obviously people that are in wheelchairs have a chance to go into a power chair and play football. And we play in the National Championship up in Nottingham. And that's usually 4 or 5 times a year. But you go up for the whole weekend. So I would leave on a Friday morning, stay up in Nottingham, play Saturday 2 or 3 games, play Sunday 2 or 3 games, and then drive back to Bournemouth, obviously on the Sunday night. That's one of our teams. And then the other team is South East. So that's a regional one for our development squad. So they just play 2 games on a Sunday. And that's either at Crawley or Hatfield. So drive up there with a van with the chairs in it. Get the guys some game time, some games, and have some fun, and then come back. And then I've got a hearing impaired team. I've got a cerebral palsy team. And then I'm also the manager of the Bournemouth University men's team.
Oh, you are? Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
So yeah, busy.
Wow,
so yeah, for the uni today, we played Cardiff Met Medics today at Chapelgate and 1-2-1. And in the quarterfinal of the Cup, which we won last year. So
very good.
Yeah. I'm always busy, which is good.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like quite a lot, but at the same time, it sounds amazing. Not gonna lie, it sounds it sounds like what you do for the club already. You're amazing. I'm just kind of slightly awed, really.
It's very very rewarding for what I do.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I've actually missed out. I've also got a Down syndrome team as well, and they're probably the funnest group to coach because it's literally in that session anything goes. Like you could have, I get bombarded, I get bundled. If I play, I'll get tripped up, and they all just jump on me and just think it's hilarious. And someone will burp and they'll blame it on me. Someone will fart and blame it on me. And sometimes I'm not even coaching them. I'm coaching the hearing impaired guys on the other side. And someone will burp and then I just hear one of them shout out, "Oh, Jordan, that was you." I'm just like, "Oh, okay. DS guys are in tonight then." But they're amazing. The DS guys. They I was saying to my CP adults on Monday night. That's when we train. And a couple of us were just talking because they trained just before us. And one guy was a bit late being picked up. And he was just wandering around the pitch, just clapping the gate. And it was at Slade. So you've obviously got the fence and you've got the field. He was just walking around the perimeter of the pitch, just clapping his hands and imaginary shaking people's hands and stuff like that. And he was doing that for about 10 minutes. And he does that after every session. So he'll clap the imaginary fans and stuff like that. He'll go in the corner, do a fake interview with himself. And it's absolutely amazing to see that he just gets so much joy.
I love that.
In football. Oh, yeah. And no one says that. You try and get him off the pitch and it's an absolute nightmare. You'll literally be walking around for 10, 15 minutes trying to get him off the pitch and he won't listen to you because he's got to do his interviews and clap the fans before he leaves Slade's Farm. But he's just amazing.
Loving the purest form, isn't it, for for that, I think.
It's just something so little as well. So it's just an hour of football. And they think it's the World Cup, and everything relies on that little 10-minute game that we finish our sessions with. If they lose, there'll be tears, and if they win, there'll be shirts off. So you either get one or the other. Unfortunately, you've got to deal with the ones that are crying, and then unfortunately, you've got to deal with the ones trying to get their tops back on because there's some small children around there, and Jack's got his top off. Not you, Jack. There's another Jack.
God,
no. That just sounds amazing. Well, I was going to ask, so what do you, you've kind of covered it. What do you most enjoy about it then? Because it sounds so fulfilling. I'm not sure if I was there, I'd sure what to pick, really.
I get asked this question a lot because it's obviously disability and we cover all disabilities in terms of team wise. So it is really hard to kind of put a finger on like what's the best out of it. I've been at Bournemouth now for 13 years, and I worked in mainstream, as what we call it, football, so after school clubs and all of that stuff, and moving over to disability is such an eye-opener, and what they take from it compared to what the mainstream kids take out of it is completely different. So because we're the Community Sports Trust, we don't charge an absolute fortune for our sessions. So it's probably, I think it works out to be about £3 a session for an hour. Now, me and Jack have both got kids, and childcare, if you're looking for someone to look after your kid for an hour, you're probably looking at about 15 to 20 quid for an hour. So with the mainstream kids, it's kind of like, oh, we haven't got to pick up our kid for another hour. Let's chuck him into the after school club for £3 instead of getting a babysitter for 20 quid. So you get kids there that don't want to do football at all. They don't like it. They'd rather be playing Warhammer or Pokemon Go or something like doing lots of gaming, Minecraft, and all of that business. They'd rather be doing that than playing football. So I think that's the main thing, is the ones for disability ones that come, they want to be there and they want to improve. So I think that will be the main thing for us, for me as a coach, is to know that people want to come back to my sessions. And as it's £3, they could easily turn back. Like, it's only £3. We won't go tonight. We're not missing much. So I think it's quite rewarding in itself that they come back each week and they enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's probably my best look at it. I think the most rewarding thing is that I get in a week, for instance, on a Monday night now, we've changed all our training other than power chair on a Monday night, and we see 170 kids in that Monday night from 5 to 8.
Wow.
So yeah, for those kind of numbers to keep on coming back week in, week out is probably the most rewarding thing.
Yeah, right.
Amazing. Yeah, just sounds amazing. I mean, obviously you, Jack, you must know quite a bit about this, but obviously for someone who's new, and I didn't. So I knew you worked for AFC Bournemouth, but I didn't really know what it was, what it was you did. I don't think I've ever really asked you, have I? But yeah, sorry, I love the sound of it. Really, it sounds like right up my alley. I must admit,
it's a dream job. Me and Luke have always said that we're very jealous of Jordan's job, and Jordan won't mind me mentioning that we all, me and him especially, suffer with dyslexia, and it's always been like the perfect role for Jordan since finishing school. A little story about Jordan and his love for football. He used to turn the volume down when he's playing FIFA and commentate. So you could hear him from his bedroom commentating his own FIFA games, like clear as day. Every single player you could reel off. And his lad Alfie's taken that on in terms of his footballer knowledge, isn't he, Geordie? He's absolutely obsessed with players and understanding where they're from and learning about them, and just absolute love for Liverpool as well. He's even you ask him who he supports and he says Liverpool in a Scouse accent, which is hilarious. So it's amazing, and we've always been, I don't want to get too soppy, but as a family we're super proud of what Jordan's done, and it's the perfect job for him. I think no bones about it. I think anybody in those roles should be paid more than what people are paid for doing that sort of job. He has a bigger impact on the community and people's lives a lot more than what I do selling vehicles, and Luke does working in a bank. But it's just, I don't think he's ever paid or anybody that he works with. So obviously Scads, Katie, that plays football with us on Thursday night, works very closely with Jordan, and they've obviously become really good friends through it. The pair of them deserve a lot more than what they get, I think, if I'm completely honest. What's Katie's role, whilst we're on the subject, George, with you? So am I right in thinking she's on the disability team with you?
Yeah, so Katie will work. I'm going to make her listen to this now. She will work.
She should be anyway.
She will work underneath me as such. So if it's not so much as like, if there's an issue, we go to Jordan and then pass it on. Like, but if there's like a little thing that's going on, same with Sam, who's obviously works with disability as well. If there's any little issues, it goes to me first, and then I pass it on if needs be. So she would work like directly under me, as such. So we go in the daytime. I haven't even said this yet. Daytime, we go to the disability schools in the area, and do PE lessons and stuff like that. So tomorrow, for instance, there's Portfield School, which is next to Chapelgate. That's a behavioural school and learning difficulty school. So we're going there and we deliver football, but it's kind of like sometimes we go in and deliver football with a bit of maths in it or English in that. And I'm probably not the best person to be going in doing that. But if it's to do with football, then we can work it out with like squad numbers and players like that. And then that means I'm engaged as well, because like Jack said, I struggled at school. I didn't do school. Football was the only reason I went to school, was just to have a kick around in the playground. So doing stuff like that and then integrating it to football as such with squad numbers, you've got to add the 2 squad numbers and what do you get and everything like that. actually makes me engaged to coaching it as well, because it's fun. Instead of me just going, right, let's go and do some maths in a classroom where it's boring. I wish that I had something like that when I was at school, because otherwise I might have been better off as such. But I enjoy what I do. Obviously, I love what I do, and it's very rewarding. But I just thought if I had something along those lines, what we deliver now when I was at school, what my life could have been otherwise, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the reason why I love it so much is because I see myself in a few of the kids that we coach. So I was a dick at school. I was bad to teachers. I was bad to fellow pupils and stuff like that. I was always getting in trouble. I hated school. And because of my dyslexia, I didn't want to learn anything else. I just wanted to be at school for the social and football and stuff like that. So when I go into schools now and I see kids, I can relate to them as such and be like, right, I was exactly like you, kicking off and booting classroom doors down and having to go at teachers and swearing and not going to class. But let's go out and play some football, calm you down a bit, and then go back into lessons. And I think that's another thing that's really rewarded about my job, is that I can change what I can see in some people in a way of going forward. And obviously we go around all different types of schools. So Bowcroft is another one over in Wimborne, Winchelsea over near Poole. So they're all different types of disability schools as such. Some are higher, some are lower, some are behavioural schools and whatnot. So it is never the same day in my job. Something could completely be, you have a nice calm day on a Monday, on a Tuesday you could be being bitten by someone, something like that. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, I was going to say, Jack trying to get you to do Friday nights. That'd be bad.
I can see why he doesn't.
Yeah, I can see why not.
So Friday night is my power chair night, and we do that over at Purbeck and Wareham.
All right, yeah.
And that is, we got 2 sessions, so that starts at 5:30 and I finish at 9:30 over there, and then obviously got to drive back. So, and because of it's all set up, and we've got a storage unit with electricity and everything for the chairs to be powered. We tried moving it to a Thursday at Ferndown, and it just doesn't work for everyone. So unfortunately, for the time being, I would love to come and play on a Friday night. I would absolutely love it.
You're not going to take over the league, yeah. Oh, I've seen you play, mate.
You've got a wedding coming up as well, haven't you, George? So things to work towards. I know that I'm certainly got that in mind, and when it comes around to getting my suit and getting my glad rags on for your wedding, I want to be a slimmer, healthier version of myself for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And it was a couple of weeks ago, the guy that did the 1,000 calories and chicken and veg.
Yes.
I'm doing that from January 1st.
Are you?
So I've looked at it. I've done it. I had a look online and stuff, and I looked at the photos and saw how much he lost, and it's just crazy. And I've been up and down with my weight. Jack would know, but unfortunately for Jack, I think, and a few of my other mates, that Kieran and Dylan, they won't mind me talking about it, really get angry with me, because I can, if I wanted to go on a diet, I'd go on a diet and I lose my weight like that. So I'm hoping. I haven't dieted for years now. I can't remember when I first started going to the gym. Must have been 3 or 4 years ago, and I lost all that weight. And then since then, I haven't really bothered about looking at what I eat and how I am. But now I've noticed that I have got a massive belly. And I feel it playing football, which kills me the most, because my life is football, and I'm always on my feet. I'm always obviously kicking footballs and everything like that. And then I'm like just looking at myself like, oh, do I look like the person who should be coaching football? And then obviously my wedding coming up as well. So I've taken it, and I've got my mindset on it. I've got until January the 1st to absolutely binge on every fatty food and every fizzy drink possible until the 1st of January, where I'm doing 1,000 calories for 5 days, and then I'm having the weekend spare because our dear old mother has told me not to do it for 7 days because I'll be ill.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it for 5 days during the week and then have the weekend free. Saturday we occasionally have a takeaway, and Sunday Hannah does a roast anyway, so it's not all bad, I guess. And then back to 1,000 calories on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which I'm literally in the back of my head is dreading, but I know it's going to be good for me, so just got to get it done.
It's funny you should mention it. I wasn't actually going to ask you about your weight, to be fair, because I know you're not involved in Man v Fat, but it's very nice of you to be so open and talk about it. It's funny you say about the 1,000 calories a day for 5 days, and weekends off kind of thing, because I was doing a little bit of look into the way your body would kind of deal essentially with how you eat in terms of calorie deficit, for example. So if you had 2,000 calories a day, hypothetically, every day consistently, you would struggle more than if you had 3,000 calories a day on the Saturday, Sunday, and then 1,500 or less, etc., for Monday, Tuesday through, Monday through Friday, because your body's not, because it's not staying still in terms of you're not consistently keeping the same, like your body doesn't know what to expect, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In the same way. So I've keep hearing about how it's actually more beneficial if you're doing calorie deficit stuff to split it and not keep it even. If that makes sense.
Okay.
I could be
keep the body guessing.
A bit wrong. Yeah, I could be a bit. I could be wrong. It's to each their own as such. What works for one doesn't necessarily work for another. But
no.
I've seen. I've done in my research. I've seen quite a few people it's quite successful for, and to be fair, that's what I've been doing recently.
Yeah.
And it seems to be working for me. So,
nice. So when I looked it up, I was like, similar to obviously what you might have read, is that some people it really does work, and then other people just can't get their head around it and it doesn't work. And they say that they're I think there was lines of more tired and not being able to get out of bed. I saw one like that saying that they were going down to 2,000 calories whilst they were on a high calorie to count for the week, and they went down to 2,000 and doing it for 7 days, and said they were struggling getting out of bed because of when they were doing it. Obviously you're also fasting a little bit, so you're not eating in the morning. So then although they had no energy left, so the sleep, and it's when you burn a lot of fat is when you're sleeping, funny enough. So when you do it like that, it's when they're getting out of bed in the morning and going up to work, they said they're more drained and tired. So there's obviously, like you said, it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. So I'm going to give it a good old go, and then if it doesn't work for like maybe the first couple of weeks or months, I can maybe change it and adjust it to something that might help.
There's certain things to look out for when you go cold turkey with anything, and I've definitely done that with fizzy drinks over the last 2 weeks. I'm now 2 weeks without a fizzy drink, and the first couple of days I was waking up with like absolute banging headaches and feeling rough as arseholes, and I couldn't pinpoint it to be anything else. And I openly admit I was drinking like 3 like bottles of Pepsi Max a day, so not like litre bottles, you know what I mean, like the ones that you get with your meal deals and stuff, but I'd easily do that a day. I'd occasionally have an energy drink and whatever.
That'd be the caffeine and more on it. Yeah,
exactly. So I looking into it, and it's without realizing how dependent I became on the caffeine, and a job like mine where I'm up stupid o'clock and on the road straight away, I'd always go to it. I felt I was disgusted with myself sometimes. So it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm stopping to get petrol and picking up a Monster. I'm like, fuck it, like it's like a pint can of Monster. Do you know what I mean? It can't be good for you. I know it can't be good for you, and I knew that, but I just needed to make that change. And I feel like I'm beyond that withdrawal symptoms part now, and I feel really good. And I'm actually enjoying drinking water. Funny enough, I actually had, because I had a beer last night when I went to see a comedy show, and I also, because I didn't want to drink a bottle of water or pay £2.50 for a bottle of water at the Bic, I did buy a Pepsi Max, and actually my first couple of sips of it was a bit like, I don't like the taste is different. It doesn't taste as sweet and as nice as it used to. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I've weaning myself off of it. It's never going to be 100% not having it. But that bar last night was my first kind of touch of a fizzy drink. So it's definitely there's certain things that you need to look out for when you're doing it, George. You know well enough when you're an adult, but when you are cutting yourself off of stuff that you're used to, you'll find this may be why these people are saying on bits that you read about how they feel lethargic in the morning and how they feel shit in the morning, because withdrawal symptoms is a real thing.
Yeah. I think Josh said it a couple of weeks ago. You're not a breakfast guy, are you, Josh?
No.
Is that right? Yeah. So
I'm not a breakfast guy. Yeah.
I don't eat until lunchtime anyway. So
you're effectively fasting anyway then.
Yeah, near enough. But then when I eat at lunchtime, I'm eating a shitload, and then I'm also eating a full dinner at night time.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of those guys that kind of snack. I'm not a snacker. But if I eat meals, I eat big meals.
Yeah.
My meals aren't small; they're massive. But I won't snack. So so snacking is not going to be an issue for me. And like the water stuff, I'm always drinking water. If it's not drinking water, I'm drinking fizzy, to be fair. But I drink a lot in a day. Probably, I would say probably 3 liters plus, easy.
Wow,
that's good though, isn't it?
Yeah. It's good, but it's also probably 2 of the liters is fizzy drinks, full fat.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I was going to say if it was like
no, it's not 4 liters of water. It's 2 liters of water, and then
like a fish.
2 liter water, and then I'd easily have like 2 or 3 drinks. And in night time, like tonight, I've got the KA pineapple juice, the good stuff. Got a can of that on the side. So that's I think that's probably my big issue is fizzy drinks as well, like Jack. And I don't like diet stuff. I like the full fat stuff. Give me the good stuff.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah,
I will pay the extra 25p in your sugar tax.
Yeah, but it's those things that bring in the calories, isn't it? If you can change that, and you go forward, if you can change from say full sugar, I don't know why people call it full fat, full sugar like Coca-Cola, and then they go down to say Coke Zero as an example. Just small things like that you can change that will help, because ultimately you're just not consuming the same amount of sugar or calories, therefore. So.
Right, should we? That's really good, Jordan. Thanks for opening up on that.
Yeah,
we weren't planning on going down the route of talking about anybody's weight in the conversation, really. But yeah, appreciate opening up. And I think the best thing that you and I can do is support each other, I guess, as well, and egg each 100%. Other on with it and keep going with it. I think we can add a little incentive behind it. It's always good, and we have to be probably the 3 most competitive brothers you'll ever come across. So we can always do something. Luke's got a little bit of podge that he can lose too, so maybe we'll get him involved. Let's dive into some football bits and pieces then. So, Josh, what have you got on the agenda for football narratives this week?
Well, so the first thing we discuss is, I mean, it's been in the news, hasn't it? Everton got a points deduction, 10 points. In fact, if that leaves them in the bottom 3, by the way. Although not very far adrift from the edge of relegation and zone, I noted. Basically, the general discussions, I wanted to get first your guys' opinion on the actual deduction. Do you think it was fair, not fair? Is it harsh, not harsh kind of thing? But also, what does that mean for them, and what does it mean for potentially other teams who've got significantly more, 115 times more charges over their head? So, I mean, what do you guys think about it? Go on.
I think it's harsh. I think what the FA have done is probably made a very serious rod for their own back now, especially with other teams, i.e. Chelsea and City, breaking rules. Chelsea's one's interesting because what Todd Bowley has done and his team have done have actually flagged up something and admitted it to the FA and the Premier League following kind of their review of the accounts and what was going on. But City obviously is one that sticks out like a sore thumb. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they get on in the Blue Square Northern League in a couple of years' time. But joking aside with it, I think something I heard, and obviously I spent a lot of time listening to TalkSport, as I often reference on here, and they had a few football experts on there. And one guy in particular said, and has been banging a similar drum recently, about how the government are very keen to get an independent regulator within the Premier League and football per se to prevent these teams like Bury and whoever else going into administration, and kind of pass it back to the fans and know that, kind of put legislation in place to know that no club is ever just going to be sold without the fans' agreement to a certain extent. And the FA and the Premier League, that is the very last thing that they want, because they know it won't end well for them. And I'm sure there's dodgy dealings going on in the background all the time that they can kind of shuffle under carpets and get away with at the moment. And I think what they're doing in this strong, very harsh, I would say, point deduction Everton is kind of proving a point and going, no, we can do it ourselves. Look, this is what we've done. Now, Everton have overspent by 20 million. Regardless, they've broken the rules and they have overspent and they should be punished. 10 points, I think, is very harsh. I think Everton are very lucky that it's this season and not last season or the season before, because they're in a much better place. Sean Dyche has got them playing some good football and they're getting some good results. And I can't see them staying 3, if I'm completely honest.
Well, I was going to ask George, what do you think? Because, I mean, firstly, do you think Everton are going to stay up, surely?
Everton will 100% stay up. I think, obviously being a Liverpool fan as well, and I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter of Liverpool fans buzzing about Everton, but I think it's very, very harsh. And like you mentioned jokingly at the start, of the 115 counts that Man City have had, and not a bat of an eyelid has been taken or anything like that over them. And Everton overspent 20 million on one transfer or whatever it was, and now been deducted 10 points. And now they've got this another lawsuit potentially from Burnley, Leicester and Leeds of the 300 million compensation that could potentially be another 9 points on top of that, because if it was done during the season that they did it, those three teams would have potentially stayed up. So
I was reading about how unfair it was on those teams potentially, because essentially it could have saved. Why didn't they do it last season? Why didn't they apply this last season? If they'd applied it last season, Everton weren't safe.
No, not how they finished the season and whatnot. So what was it? The final day against Bournemouth, wasn't it? They stayed up. Was that right?
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
Yeah. So it's gone down to the final game, and those three teams could have all said that they could have potentially stayed up they would have done if Everton had a 10-point deduction. So, and I feel for Everton for that, because I think me and Jack were talking in our group chat earlier on. They've got a fund about 300 million, and their squad isn't worth 300 million. So if they're already in trouble and they've got that new 500 million stadium that they're building, they can't pluck out 300 million now. If they're going to get done for it, which is a real possibility, then they're going to easily have another 9 points and potentially go into administration.
And that's what those 9 points are for, aren't they? That's what they're suggesting, 9 points, because they won't be able to afford to pay those clubs, and they'll have to go into administration to be able to cover those debts.
And they would have to try and sell their assets. So that's your Pickfords, your Calvert-Lewins, your Decores, all of those go in on a cheap, probably, to try and make ends meet. But I think it's an absolute joke that, as we've said already, City are getting away with it. Chelsea seem to be getting away with it.
Yeah, but the City one is interesting just because they did say it was going to take bloody ages for them to do, and it 2 or 3 years. So it just surprised me how quick this Everton one.
Yeah.
Or maybe it hasn't been that quick, and we just.
City's lawyer is tying the Premier League in absolute knots. They've got the best lawyer possible on it, and what inevitably he's going to do is he's going to find every hole or every mistake that the Premier League have inevitably made, or the FA have inevitably made, and they'll come to an agreement at some point where they go, this is how much your fine is and this is how much your point deduction is. They will not get every one of those 115 cases to stick. I reckon you'd be lucky if they get half. They still may very well be in a lot of trouble for it, but inevitably what they've done and what Everton haven't done is Everton clearly haven't had the best of the best lawyer on the case to sort it and prolong it, and that's essentially what City are doing. Do you think retrospectively, should City? I'll start by now saying I don't think they would, and I know that Arsenal would benefit from it. The last thing I'd want is Arsenal to be handed a league on a formality. I want them to win the league.
They won't do that at all with anything. No. They won't do that at all, I don't think.
But I think they should be potentially stripped of the titles, but they shouldn't be handing them out to people that came second or lost to them in a final. I think they may be stripped of those titles, or those will certainly be under attack. I mean,
let's put it this way. That means that Man United won a title under Jose Mourinho and under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Jesus.
In theory. I know, right? Unbelievable.
I was reading something from it must have been Twitter, but it was off the Daily Mail, and it was a former City financial advisor, has said that Chelsea and City, if found guilty of all the charges that they've been accused of, could easily be relegated to leagues.
Yeah.
And that was the former financial advisor for Man City who's come out and said that. So I don't think he's probably in their best books at the minute. But he said if all charges are actually committed and they've been proven and guilty of it, they could be relegated to 2 divisions. So what's that? League One.
I mean, if both of those teams went to League One, I think you'd find Chelsea recover quicker than Man City.
Yeah.
Interestingly, because I think that both teams would lose all their stars. I mean, Pep would leave City, for example, and things like this, but I don't know. There's just something about it. That's just a off the top of my head thought, but I just had to get the feeling that City have more to lose, surprising, than Chelsea do in that scenario.
And Chelsea have a lot younger squad as such as well, don't they?
Yeah.
If you look at it in terms of City have got they've got fantastic players, but they've got players that are in their prime or coming to the end of their prime as such now, where Chelsea have got they went the last 2 windows of just signing 19, 20-year-olds, didn't they? So
yeah, and they're all on 8-year deals anyway.
And so they can't go anywhere. And the other one with Chelsea is what they're being done for is off the book payments.
Yeah.
So they've been sending them out to Russians off seas and then bank transferring it back to the people in the UK. So that's what their financial fair play rules have stuck them, is just these offshore payments they've been making.
A lot of the talk is Chelsea like to get a transfer ban again, rather than
a big fine and a transfer ban. Yeah. So
it doesn't matter to them. They've got, as I say, 1921 and 8-year deals. They don't mind, do they? So there you go.
Maybe they've priced that into these deals. Maybe that's what their thought process is.
Well, there's a loophole in that 8-year contracts, wasn't it? Which they've now stopped.
Oh, they got closed down very quickly. Yeah.
The Premier League stopped that. So I think by the end next season, there's going to be a whole new, in terms of contracts, and in terms of agents, in terms of people coming in and buying football clubs and stuff like that. I think there's going to be a real tight thing from the Premier League and the FA as such to stop things like this.
Josh, do you fancy a little game of guess the 8 teams that voted to continue the inter-club loaning situation? I believe funny. Jordan knows them, so we can have a stab at the dark here if you want.
Because it's funny you should say 8, because everything I kept reading was 7. So George seems to say it's 8, so we will go with 8.
I hope it's 8. I hope I'm not wrong.
I'll kick us off. I think Chelsea is an obvious one.
Yeah, I mean Newcastle's the next one, isn't it? Obviously.
Yeah.
Considering that every headline suggests that Newcastle are almost the only people this applies to, when we know it's not.
Is Chelsea and Newcastle both on the list?
Yeah. City.
City on the list.
Yeah.
The City group.
My next thing would be Man United. I would assume Man United are on the list.
I'm not.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't think so. No, they're solely owned,
well,
aren't they?
The only reason why I said Man United might be on the list is because their potential 25% stake owner owns Lyon.
Yeah. Of course he does.
I assumed that, and they want.
Is it Lyon or Nice?
It's
Nice.
It's Nice, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Nice.
Oh God, I thought it's Lyon or Nice, one of the two. I'm pretty sure it's Lyon. But I could be wrong.
But it's not United then.
No, not United.
Bournemouth,
That's
100%.
an interesting one.
Bournemouth was no.
Really?
I would. My next one would be Crystal Palace.
Nope.
No, Steve Parish. Oh God, what a man.
Sheffield United. They're owned by another club.
Sheffield United is correct.
Notts Forest.
Forest, correct.
Yeah. What's his
You've got
name
three
that owns
more.
that? He's got fingers in many pies, isn't he? The guy that owns Forest.
Yeah.
He's at Olympiacos.
Yeah.
How many have we got so
Somewhere
far?
else.
Then we've said
You need three more.
Liverpool can't be in there. Surely Liverpool.
No.
Liverpool not in there.
So.
Oh
God.
I'm surprised Bournemouth aren't, because doesn't Bill Foley own a couple of other clubs? I'm sure he does, and he's looking to buy more.
Bill Foley has just bought a New Zealand team, and he is
Lorient as well.
Lorient, yeah.
Interesting.
So they're not in it now.
God, who can we think of then?
God,
So
I'm struggling here now.
There's two Northern teams and one Midlands team.
What, Villa?
Not Villa.
Oh.
Wolves. Oh, of course it's Wolves.
Wolves.
Yeah, they always have the Portuguese players, don't they? That they share.
Oh yeah, but also it's funny. It seems to be anyone sponsored by Castor. So
that's suddenly owned by Saudi.
So two Northern teams.
You're testing my geography more than you are my actual football knowledge now.
I can't think of who else it would be.
One is surprising, and the other one not so much because of who they bring in and where they bring the players from.
Everton?
Everton is the one.
Yeah.
That's the one I was quite surprised about.
Yeah, I bet they had a fucking whale of a time in that meeting.
They probably said, "Oh yes, just do it so we can take the attention off that."
Fuck everybody else, yeah. So there's one more, is there?
There's one more.
And you say, where are they? Midlands?
Northern.
Oh, Northern.
Wolves.
Well, we obviously haven't.
Burnley.
Burnley is correct.
Yeah, they share.
Because they get players from the Belgium league. I think they're associated with. I can't remember who it is now.
Anderlecht.
That's where the company came from.
Company link, I think.
Yeah, so I think they've got some sort of ties with some Belgian teams. So yeah, that's the 8 teams.
Yeah.
Do we think it's a good thing or a bad thing that it's been allowed?
I think the argument is if you're the Premier League, as a product is probably not a bad thing. But in terms of sporting integrity, it doesn't seem like a good thing necessarily, does it?
Well, it's all
How do you feel if
you think of Newcastle, like they've been linked with obviously Neves, haven't they?
Yeah.
And they'll be able to get Neves on an absolute. Well, they won't be paying any upfront costs.
No.
So it's going to be a free loan. All they've got to do is pay his loan. He's got to pay his wages, which they can negotiate with the club that he plays for in Saudi and say, all right, you pay him 90%,
95% of his wages,
and we're paid a 5%. So they can just wangle whatever they want. So,
how would you feel if Newcastle beat you to the top four, Josh, because they've signed Neves, Benzema, Ronaldo?
Well, they're doing that anyway, aren't they? Without those, anyway. So
there is a chance. I didn't want to make that obvious, but there is a chance. Yeah.
But I guess if it was the difference, I'd be pretty aggrieved. But
interesting.
Just at the same time, I think to myself, yeah, I mean, it depends how it's done, doesn't it? Really, if you say if they're just gonna basically do exactly as you say, do it to the minimum they can to get someone in the door for as little as possible, and it's quite clearly obvious that's what they've done, and they haven't valued the player correctly, blah blah blah, then yeah, it's a problem. But if they, it's funny because they were talking about that. It came up in the summer with Newcastle around Saint-Maximin, because he went over to Saudi, and about how his value.
Oh yeah, of course.
And they said about the fact that actually he was fairly valued, and Newcastle hadn't actually inflated his value at all.
That is one thing that they're not going to be allowed to do. So they'll have to pay a fair market value for Neves if they were to buy him. So they sold him for 45. So realistically, if you said depreciation, he's worth 40, they would have to pay that. But that don't mean shit because the money's coming from them anyway, doesn't it? It just circulates.
It's for FFP it does, but it's more just it's the loaning, isn't it? Really, that's the issue.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. It's loan because their season is short as well. So so their season's I can't remember when it finishes now, but it finishes quite a few months before obviously the Premier League. So Neves would only essentially be missing 2 months of football of Saudi to play a whole half a season here.
Yeah.
And be paid the same money. The only thing that teams could do with that, aka Newcastle, is they could loan Ronaldo and basically pay his wages from just the shirt sales that they'll probably make from it.
Yeah, right.
Because everyone's going to get a Ronaldo Newcastle shirt if he went.
Do you think Eddie would want him?
No, he wouldn't.
No,
not
at all.
way.
And I have to admit, I think that's one of that's for me, that's what I hold out hope for. Is the absolute biggest person in this could be Eddie Howe himself, and what he wants to do. And if it doesn't fit, and we've seen already, if it doesn't fit what he wants to do, his style, he doesn't want it forced upon him, and they don't seem to have forced stuff on him so far. I completely
agree. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Josh. I don't think he's like that, and I don't think he'll go down that route. I think he'll look at it and think he can probably get Calvin Phillips instead than Neves, and go without all the pressure and the hassle of this, and all this media attention that it would get if they got Neves instead of going for Phillips, who's not playing and needs game time. It'd just be a lot easier for the whole dressing room and everything like that. And that's another thing you got to look at is the players that are already at the club. And Newcastle have recently signed, well, not recently, but they've got obviously Longstaff in the team. They brought Dan Burn in, they're local lads. And they're going to see Neves come in on an absolute wedge for 6 months and then go back to Saudi.
I mean, that's the big thing for him as well, isn't it? He's always preached that kind of thing. He's always a team kind of.
Yeah, he's a man manager.
Yeah, exactly.
And if the dressing room isn't right or something's going on, then Eddie knows about it and stuff will change. And like being at Bournemouth and stuff like that, you hear stories and stuff that's happened in the past, and like you said, the chemistry and stuff in changing rooms is massive for Eddie.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, by the way, to me earlier briefly about injuries, and this stemmed off the back of. Was that something you wanted to talk about, Jord? I think.
So it was I saw it come up on, I think it was the BBC Sport page a couple of days ago. But there's been 196 injuries already this season in the Premier League that have gone down as players absent for 1 or 2 games plus. So 196 in 12 games, is it? We're in? 12 games in the season? But 196 seems to be a lot of injuries in 12 games. I know it's not just games, it's obviously in training and whatnot, and people pick up knocks.
Yeah.
But I just thought it must be something big because they wouldn't have posted it.
Yeah, I mean, it must. Yeah. Is it the schedule the problem? Is it the extra time? I mean, I wouldn't have thought is the extra time a problem. I haven't really noted it being too much of a problem.
No, I didn't
Is
notice
it just freak season? Is it?
Yeah, I've noticed it in terms of teams that have picked up a lot of injuries at a certain time. So I have got those teams written down. So United have currently got 14 players out. Newcastle have got 14 players out. Palace have got 13 players out. Forest have got 13 players out. Sheffield United have got 13 players out, and Chelsea have got 12 players out. So and they're all considered like first team players.
Yeah.
And then looking back at the 8 teams that were wanting to go ahead with this loan or whatever it is, the vote, and Newcastle were in there, Sheffield United are in there, Forest are in there, and Chelsea are in there.
Yeah.
So
Man United. You said Man United weren't, sorry.
Yeah. But they're obviously looking at bringing loan players in or whatever, and this cross loaning because they are short of players.
Yeah.
Or short of what they want. So I just thought it was just a weird stat. I just looked at it the other day and thought, wow, it does seem quite a lot. And then I have got a list of the least teams if you want to know them as well.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So West Ham have got 5, Wolves have got 6, Bournemouth have got 7, Everton have got 7, City have got 7, and Luton have got 7.
Yeah.
So
haven't City got like a fake long list of injuries though? Here he goes.
Yeah. So Jack obviously listened to my pod this morning.
Yeah.
And I've gone on about it because City had 12 players pull out of international duty this week.
Really?
And I guarantee you, all 12 of those guys will be fit and ready for us on 12:30 on Saturday. They had Ederson out, they had Ake out, Kovacic, Haaland obviously picked up an injury. Diaz pulled out.
Yeah. Well, that happens a lot though, doesn't it? And I think that's partly a way of avoiding fixture congestion and long-term injuries if you're a player.
Yeah.
Surely. But it is a little bit.
He used to be the king of it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've got like hamstrings. I've got the numbers on these as well, Josh. Don't you worry, pal. Hamstrings 53. Not specified 40. Knee 28. Ankle and foot 21. Calf and Achilles 17. Groin and hip 16.
Yeah. Well, standard, isn't it? Those are to be expected, but still ridiculous numbers.
The hamstring ones is obviously they could be as little as like a tweak and stuff like that, which will rule you out for a week. But I don't know. It's just, there was a lot of speculation when Eddie was at Bournemouth. They had a lot of injuries. I don't know if you can remember that one time. It was the same. It was the same type of injury they were getting. It was all muscular injuries.
Yeah.
And they changed it because they were training in the morning. Now the new manager actually trains. He's very similar to Klopp. He trains at the time of kickoff leading up to the week. So whatever time their kickoff time is, they will do a training session then.
That's interesting.
And the intensity of the training sessions will be twice a week. So they have 2 high intensity training sessions. And the rest will be kind of like walkthroughs and stuff like that, and set plays and having a look at shape and pattern of play from the other team. But he changes it to the time of kickoff. He trains then. He will do like a light work in the morning, then have a full training session at say 3:00 each day leading up to the Saturday game. And then they'll do like walkthroughs after that. But he wants the intensity training the same time as the kickoff. And I know Klopp does a very similar thing at Liverpool, which is interesting to see. Obviously, different managers have different things, but Eddie always trained in the morning when he was a Bournemouth manager. And they had a crazy amount of hamstring and muscular injuries. I think the season where he left, they had a lot of injuries. Can you remember? Do you remember that season? They had a fair few of injuries, didn't they? And it was all kind of muscular ones. And they were saying it was down to timing of training and how the intensity they were training at was down to that. And it's now, funny enough, Newcastle have got 14 injured again now. And a lot of them are muscular injuries again. So I don't know if it's a coincidence or if it's obviously Newcastle were playing Champions League football as well. So Bournemouth weren't playing European football at the time when he was doing it at Bournemouth, obviously. But Newcastle have got 14 injuries, which is the second highest with United at the minute. So I don't know.
Well, United, the whole thing about Ten Hag is his training is you hear I constantly see leaks all over Twitter about inside club sources, blah, blah, blah. And it's always about how, don't believe half of them, to be honest, but it's more like how Ten Hag's training sessions are quite intense, generally speaking. So that's always been known to be the case, and they have a lot of injuries. So I did want to quickly just recap before. I know we've been here talking for a while now, but one thing, moving from the internationals quickly, obviously England played internationals. There was a lot of pessimism, I'm just going to say, generally directed towards England over the break. I'm not really one who. Yeah, well, I'm not really one who gets involved in that too much. Let's be honest, their games didn't really matter. So doesn't really matter ultimately. But I know, Jack, you had some pretty strong feelings. I don't know about you, Jord, but
I definitely did. I fell asleep in the first one. Was it Malta, the first one?
Yeah.
So I fell asleep just after half time. And then they played on Monday night, didn't they? So I was working till 8. So I missed the first bit. By the time I switched on, I watched a bit of it and then turned it back off because it was boring.
I mean, boring's fair. I get that. It wasn't good, but I just
I get where you're coming from with the games are done and we're qualified and stuff like that. But France are also qualified and they beat Gibraltar 14-0.
Yeah, but they also played everyone who would start in a World Cup final.
And
so
I think England have got the players. I think England have got the players to go and put a stamp on and show teams. I know that we'd easily, if we were full strength and stuff, beat the two teams that we played against and comfortably, and so we should. But I think kind of the boring football of what we've gone to now is you're seeing players go into England camp and changing how they play for their club sides. And I think it's a Southgate thing. I'm not a massive Southgate fan, to be honest. And I think he's got everyone kind of being defensive minded and let's look after the ball and let's keep the ball and work our way into the game. It's the same with City. I think was it Simon Jordan today talking and saying that he'd much rather watch Liverpool play than City play because of how they do play. City, it's all well and good just keeping the ball and playing pretty football, but people want to be entertained and get bums off seats. And that's being direct and attacking teams. And I think that's what England have just kind of missed.
The only argument I would make to that is that England have I know you shouldn't have to rely on individual brilliance, but it's more a case of it is kind of a tournament style football. It's the kind of football that wins you games and that along the long run. Man City are boring as fuck, but they are like a winning machine. Yeah. So it's I don't love it. Like, I'm not the hugest Southgate fan in the world. I'll freely admit that. I think they're probably. I mean, I don't know how many managers out there who actually want to do international football, not just our league managers. Who would make a significant improvement. It's just more a case that I don't understand the reactionary pessimism of it. Really, it's two games where honestly it does not matter. The second of which, by the way, was like less than a friendly, and he played 7 or 8 players who'd never played England together in the same sport. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, what would you expect to some degree? So couple that with his kind of style as such, it was never. And it's not like, let's say, regardless of the squad, of the generational talent, England have got history with this. It's not like we've ever been that team like France who turns it on and beats someone 14-0 in our entire history. So it's just kind of, I kind of slightly, I just thought it was a bit overreactionary. That was my only thought on it, really. We'll see what happens when we get to
the business end.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say we haven't done at least decently well, better than normal over tournaments over the last,
completely
3 or 4
agree.
of them.
Completely agree. But go on.
Sorry, go on.
You go on.
No, all I was going to say was that I know people would say that that's down to the players we have, but you've got to give some credit to how Southgate has managed that squad and the players to get to where they have been in tournaments before, in the last few tournaments. You can say, they've got. It's not. I'm not going to say that people like Eddie Howe couldn't come in and make them literally World Cup and Euros winners. I'm sure he could, but I don't think it's been as bad as people say it's been. Basically.
Do you think if we had more of an attacking manager as such, that he would have gone that one step further and won the Euros and the World Cup? If you had more of an attacking sense, because let's be honest, he is more of a defensive mindset.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, of course.
If we did have more of an attacking sense manager, do you reckon that they would have?
I think we would have given. I think we would have done better in the moments where we were on top. So we would have been much more clinical when we needed to be more clinical, and we would just completely sink teams in like 15-20 minutes where we're just dominant, and I don't mean like ball dominant, I just mean just all over them. So, and we had moments like that in all of the last tournaments, in almost all of the games.
And didn't take a chance
and just didn't take it. And I think
then we go into a low block and then
that would have made a difference. I agree with that. Italy final, for example, just like dominated the first half an hour. So it's just like, things like, so yes, I agree with that. I just don't. I mean, I understand the Southgate out brigade, but at least he's going to see this next tournament, and we'll just see, won't we, from there?
Yeah. I can't
With
disagree with anything that you both said, to be honest. I think there's arguments for and against. He does frustrate me, and I think I always refer to him as Safegate rather than Southgate. I want him to release the shackles a little bit, but I just know that he won't. Like you've said, he's a defensive coach. He's defensive minded. We just want him to just be a bit more tactically astute. Would you consider him an elite manager? Would you consider him somebody that would go when he finishes with England? Would he walk into a top 6 team in the Premier League? I think both of those answers are no.
He was linked with the United job.
Christ,
he was.
I'm telling you, that is not an upgrade.
when they went for Ollie instead, I think Southgate was in the mix then. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe.
I just don't think he's. I don't know. I don't think the jury's out. I think there's a real balanced view both ways, and he has achieved some good things, but I don't know what people. I kind of think back. What I said in the group chat is just saying what a big difference Ange has made to Spurs. Just the way that they feel as a fan base, the way that they feel as a team. You just feel like that there's that movement forward. I just don't think that Southgate can propel us any further than he has. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm more than happy to be dancing in the street when we win the Euros. But my verdict is out. I'm not the biggest fan.
He's definitely a tournament manager.
Yeah,
like Josh
but
said.
That's what we've been missing for years, and that's why we've done better in tournaments.
Manager, is he?
Yeah.
He doesn't need to do the qualifying, but let's get him to a tournament. And
he manages every game like it's a tournament. Like it's a tournament, like he would be playing in a tournament on some level, doesn't he?
So if they lost, they're out, basically. That's how he plays.
And that's why they've conceded like 4 goals through the entirety of qualifying, with arguably that's the weakest area of the team. So
yes.
I mean, it's worked. Don't love it. I was going to say this though. Would you rather you just win 1-0 every single game and win the Euros, or would you, what would you rather? You just win the Euros, or in a boring way, or just
I'll take it now and let him. Yeah, I'll take that now and let him go off in his chariot and become a Sir Gareth, and go from there. But I just don't see it happening, unfortunately.
Okay.
I think when teams put it to us, we'll struggle.
Yeah. Okay, then just a quick one before we move on. Or finish, I should say. If there's any manager right now, obviously, who would you have in that job? Let's just say hypothetically, every manager's available. I assume there's some obvious ones, but let's just say realistically, who would you have in that role? When he's gone.
I'm biased. I'll go with Eddie.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have said Eddie. Let's be honest, a lot of people have said Eddie Howe, because I think they're starting to realise how good he is.
I think from the English side of things as well, I'm not against a foreign manager, but I just think he ticks every box and would do a great job, I think.
The only thing I will say to that is he's not going to do it, is he? He's a league manager. He's a league manager. He wants to be in the league, and that's where all the best managers are. Yeah, eventually, maybe. But
he'll take Mad Dog Tyndall with him as well, won't he?
That's a long way
to his head, wouldn't it?
Before Eddie gets there, I think. I think personally, I would go with someone who's actually not got a job at the minute, and this is a foreign manager as well. So going against what Jack said, but I would go with Zidane.
The only thing I'll say about that one is interesting. That one is that I'm not sure Zidane's as good as people give him credit. I mean, he did have the Galacticos at Real Madrid, didn't he?
He did have a very good team, yeah.
But I suppose the England squad is comparable on some level compared to the competition. So he doesn't speak English, though, does he? As well?
No, he doesn't speak English, and he'd also just attack. So that's why I would say it. Just a quick one before we do finish. I noticed that Kai Havertz was playing left back for Germany.
Yeah, and scored. A worldie.
So is he Arsenal's new left back, or?
Fuck Kai Havertz now. I think I'm done with him. It's just not gonna. It's not. it's not going to get any better. I think there's a mistake there, and we're going to have to live with it. And Arteta has spent so much money on him that he just can't drop him. I'm done.
Just funny for left backs. You need a left back. Man City need a left back. It's interesting. It's just it doesn't seem to. I actually had this. I'll probably cut this bit from the pod, but it's I had this thing about how Luke Shaw will get into any team in any team in the Premier League and start fit.
That's crazy. Because I was watching a TikTok video earlier on, and I was talking about this earlier on as well. And I watched one where there's 3 guys just pick their best ever left backs, and all 3 of them said Luke Shaw. The best in worldwide left backs. And
Robbo's better than him.
I'm looking at Robbo was in there as well. The 3 was Robertson, Shaw, and someone had Alphonso Davies, and then the other one had
Roberto Carlos.
No, I mean now playing.
Now, yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
And the other one was, is it Badu, the Barcelona left back?
Oh yeah,
right, yeah. Okay, I just thought it's interesting because I was just thinking about left backs and I thought to myself, Man United really need a left. Oh wait, they have got Luke Shaw. He's injured.
Back in training. He's back training.
Yeah, well, hopefully he'll play because then he'll make Rashford shine again. And okay, now sorry, just it's funny because
somebody needs to.
He's probably the only Man United player who will walk into any team in the league.
Yeah, I probably don't.
Well, with the exception of Liverpool, probably.
So, that would probably be the only one. But Man City would just buy another left back for 50 million, wouldn't they, if they're short?
They've got fucking Aki. Aki can play left back.
That's what they usually do. They got Mendy in, didn't they? And who else did they get in? Straight after Mendy, they bought Cancelo.
Yeah, well, I have to admire Pep's ruthlessness for that. Yeah.
Any injuries, just go out and buy someone in January. It's fine.
Yeah. Fuck fair play, mate. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, did you also? Sorry, I'm chewing everyone's ear off. I'm sorry.
No,
just love talking football. Did you see that Republic of Ireland got their loss, so they qualified for the Euros?
No, I didn't. They had to lose
They had to lose to Netherlands, and they did. So they're qualified. Well done them. Or they've got to the playoffs or whatever.
I was going to say, I think it's.
How does that work? I'm confused.
So because of where they sit on the National League, Nations League rankings, I think it was Greece that sat above them. If Greece won their game, they qualified automatically, which meant if Republic of Ireland won their game, they wouldn't go through because Greece sit higher than them in the Nations League rankings.
Oh,
fuck
so if they lost, then they would go into the playoffs and still have a chance of qualifying for the Euros.
Yeah.
So they lost 1-0, so they have now reached the playoffs or the actual competition itself. I can't remember what it was. I think it might be the playoffs, but if they won the game, they wouldn't have because they sit lower than Greece in the Nations League rankings.
Interesting.
So it's absolute. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Losing makes you qualify.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Right, I think that's a fair point to wrap it up on. I think it's been a great one. Thanks, Jordan, for joining us. It's been really insightful. Incredibly, I've learnt a bit about what you do, which I thought I already knew. So thank you so much, mate. And Josh, cheers for your time. And we will have you we'll be in your ears next week, I should say. And have a great week, everyone. Speak to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me on, guys, and
pleasure.
Top work for all you guys that do. I really enjoy Thursday night, and it's a real good group. So credit to you all.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers,
Cheerio.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.